Okay, so today, my friends, we are looking at my card game. My channel is called Card Creator Connor for a reason, and Card Creator Connor for a reason. So here we have I call it a template, but I don't know if that's the right word to use exactly, but this file that I'm looking at here in GIMP is the program that I use to make all the art for my game. And yeah, so this is just basically the file that I use while I am the program I use and the file that I use while I'm making art and cards for my game. So this is where I made all of the card frames, all of the artwork and everything. And then because the game is pixel art, I upscale it to be a multiple times larger than the pixel art so that the card physically isn't like this and it's like an actual normal size card. So yeah, it's a trading card game. The whole principal idea behind it is I use a fairly complex mathematical formula that I created in order to make it so that every single card, no matter what rarity, no matter what type, no matter what the effect is, no matter how drastically different or unique each effect is, every card is exactly mathematically balanced with every single other card. So while one player is sitting there discarding a card and sacrificing a minion and paying 7 mana for this giant guard minion that protects their board, another player is playing a 2 mana card that summons a 2/2, and both of those cards, while drastically different, are exactly mathematically perfectly equal with each other. And you know, in terms of design, it's very important to understand that the most important aspect I found while designing and testing this game is that the cards every single mechanic, every single line of text on every single card has to interact directly with the same systems on every other card. So what I mean by that is, like you see in a lot of other card games, you see effects like you know, destroy target creature, or you know, draw 2 cards. Well, the draw 2 cards isn't a good example. Destroy target creature is probably the best example that I can think of, and pretty much every card game has that. And it's really interesting because that effect, from my findings and from my doing math and designing this game, I've discovered that effect essentially can never be balanced per se, because basically what happens is, as soon as you print a card that says, like, let's say it's 5 mana to destroy a creature, like you know, a certain game has a certain card that does that exact thing as a spell, and I think they buffed it recently, but anyways, who cares? The whole thing is you play the amount of mana to destroy a creature. Anytime any player plays any creature or minion or whatever your game calls the units of the game, anytime a player plays one of those, they're going to look at the mana cost of that card. And if that card is greater than the cost of the current destroy spell, then that card is going to be looked at under a much harsher lens. What's going to happen is players are going to say, well, if I pay 7 mana for this minion and then it gets destroyed by a 5 mana spell, then there's no point in playing this minion, it dies to removal, and you instantly get that logic applying. And I know right now with other card games, other bigger card games, I'll say, they have, like, you know, 2 mana destroy any creature pretty much, with a slight restriction that varies depending on the set or whatever. But what ends up happening there is any creature that costs more than 2 mana, you have to look at under this lens of, what else does this card provide for me besides just stats? Because if it doesn't provide to me something besides just stats, it immediately gets completely, you know, shoved away to absolute irrelevance. The difference there is, the more that you pay for something, the harder it is to remove. I'll show you guys this, because this is basically my my file that I use to make the art, and it's all pixel art. So just to show you guys what I'm up to, this is like basically the way the art starts is I just draw blobs. I get this idea in my head for a card. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to make a card, and I want it to be called Survivor of the Peaks. So I want to draw like this mountainous region here with snow and all that cool stuff. So I start with what I call blobs, which is just literally like, I drew with a paintbrush, just some generic stuff here that kind of looks vaguely, like the idea of what I'm going for. And then once I have the vague idea of the shape of the card, then I start to add detail. And you can see me working through this here. This frame, we add like some background there. We add some layers to here. We add some color to the clouds, some more detail. I attempt to start drawing the actual character here. Obviously, drawing humans is really hard to do. It takes a lot of time and effort. Like hands are really hard to draw. I think I did a good job with, like, you can see here, like this here. That looks pretty good for a hand, and so does this one, right? So I'm not insanely good at art. I do plan on doing some art commissions from some artists. I'm currently talking to one artist who does have a YouTube channel. I'll see if I can link them in the description or whatnot to get the ball rolling there. But yeah, so this is basically Survivor of the Peaks. You can see me working on it here, adding lighting and effects. I found the eyes looked kind of bad, so later on I changed it to basically look like this. And I did end up mirror flipping it because I felt like it looked just better with it mirror flipped like this. So this is what ended up being the final art for that card there. And you can see that I made it here. Here is, I guess this is like proof that I made the game. And is right now I am working on making like super basic cards, just like standard stuff that you would see from all of the like basically the going rate for cards. So I've done like little token cards, damage dealing cards. I've done basic minions with standard stats. I've done guard minions that protect you, and a few other mechanics here. So today I'm working on card draw. Nice simple mechanic. Card draw is typically very, very powerful in most card games. So card draw has a very high mana cost in my game as a result. I've done a lot of testing to figure this out, but it was crazy to me how like I went on both sides of the pendulum here in terms of card draw design. I should briefly mention, like, I made these like card frames. So basically I like figured out what data I need to have on the card, and this is kind of me figuring that out and the spacing of like where everything has to be. And then after I figured out that spacing, I drew like actual like artistic drawings of the different classes in the game. When you play mana cards, you don't have to adhere to classes. Like, you can run like any number of angel cards, any number of mage cards. You can mix and match them. It doesn't matter. The classes are there for story and also isolating like the mechanics a little bit, so you kind of have a little bit of cohesion there with like, oh, like this class does this, but you can run any number of cards from any class. There's no restrictions there. It just kind of like separates the toolbox for the players. So that's the thing there. So the classes we have, I've got the angel cards here. We have druid cards, mage cards, warlock cards, and warrior cards. Yeah, so it's really interesting. Some of the story stuff is really cool, especially coming in set 2. I've got some really exciting stuff planned for that. So yeah, I have a name for set 1 and everything, but I don't want to say it because I want to get it, official and all that stuff first. So yeah, let me show you. I'm going to actually do some work here instead of just talking to the camera for the entire time. Right, so this card I've already done. This is called Search the Shelves, and I have it somewhere in here. Where is it? I think I called it Draw 3. Yeah. So this is basically the 3 mana Draw 3 card. And when these print, they like the corners get cut off, so that way you have like a nice rounded edge. But it actually cuts off part of the art. And based off the centering of how the print goes, it might cut off things, this way or that way or whatever. So that's why there's like so much extra space in the border around the edges there. So yeah, you can see here I've made it a skilled card, which means that those are my rarities. I named the rarities based off of the, let's see here, the complexity of the cards. I named the rarities off the complexities of the cards. So some cards that are a little more skill intensive have higher rarities, and cards that are just more simple, easy to understand, those are considered basic cards. So I have my art kind of all over the place. Basically this here, this whole section, you can see this giant chunk there. What that is this is like the most recent printing that I've done of the game. So my actual cards as they were are all here. You can see my old card frames. They have like this magenta barrier around them because I was previously doing black borders around the edges of the cards. And yeah, you can see like all these cards here, all these arts. You know, it comes obviously, but I drew all of these myself. This is just a bunch of pixel art. It ranges in quality. I'm not the best artist in the world. Certainly not. So I just do pixel art. I can't really do anything else. This is part of why I'm like, I need to commission some artists, because I'm I vary in quality. So like you can see, like some of my cards look really good. Like this is Mountain Guard here. It looks really nice. And some of them, like this card's, it's funny because this card's really popular. It's very strong card that, well, I say strong card. All the cards are exactly as strong as each other, but it's adheres to an aggressive strategy really effectively. So as a result, one of my players who likes to play aggro really likes this card. It's called Dark Hero. And the art is literally just some floating glow effect pixels on a black background, because this is one of the earliest arts that I drew when I was first. Oh, sorry, I just shook my camera. This is one of the earliest arts that I drew ever. So when making this game, this is one of the first pieces of work that I did for the game. And like this one here, this one's called Always Searching. This is an updated version of the original drawing that I did ages ago. And I started out like 10 plus years ago making this game, and I actually drew them with pencil on cardstock that I cut out. So they were just hand-drawn stuff. And then I ended up learning pixel art from doing Minecraft texture packs, of all things. And I just kept doing it, and I got better and better at drawing, and, you know, we have some mixed results here. You know, like obviously some of these look good and some of these not so much. These are like my full art card sections over here. So some of them look really basic. Like you've got this card here is called Seeker of the Storms, or Seeker of the Storm. And there it is, and it's kind of just generic looking whatever. But then we have cards, you know, over here like Light Guide, and this card looks really cool. You know, Petal Stag has kind of like this card here has kind of like a nature vibe. You've got Stormcall here. It's another art I'm very happy with. But then you have really basic stuff like, you know, this card's called Outcast. It just is a guy in space, and it's barely a guy. It's just pixel art stuff. It's like kind of whatever. So I really like this one. So it's one of my favorite card arts I've done. Again, a lot of these are so simple with the way that they're drawn, but they are very evocative. Like the physical cards are very like, you know, they're charming, partly because they're pixel art. You know, that really helps. A card like Songbird has a lot more detail to it. One of my most recent arts I was working on, this is not for set 1, this is actually a set 2 card here that will be coming out much later, but I was working on drawing like with shapes a little bit here, drawing with shapes, like using the lines of geometry to kind of make something a little more complex. So you can see here I started out with like a little boat thing, and I kept going and going and adding effects and working on the card and all that stuff, and then eventually ended up with like this here. So this is the card there. This card's going to be called Cursed Villager, and it'll be in set 2, so it'll be a long time before anybody sees that because set 1 isn't even out yet officially. I do have printed cards, and we've been playing and testing and all that stuff, but we are not yet at the point where I've got like the copyright sorted out and all that stuff, so I can't really, you know, start actually selling the cards just yet. But we're getting there. You know, eventually I will get that sorted out. That's why I have the new card frames, you know, over here. Made room for the credit to the artist, a little copyright thing just to be like, don't steal my stuff, and all that stuff. So, yeah. Honestly, I think that that's maybe all I wanted to do, is just kind of introduce the concept of what I'm doing here. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, I could work on a card design in front of y'all here, but I don't know if I'm ready for doing that. I might just do that on my own. Yeah, but this is just a little bit of designer insight into like the game itself. Did I talk about balancing yet? That's the most important thing. This game, I basically invented a mathematical system for this game It was a lot of math. It took me genuinely 15 years to develop this, of rigorous testing. Like I said, I started years ago with pencil and paper. I just have always been enamored with card games, and so I started drawing these little cards on pencil and paper. And I started coming up with like mathematical formulas to relate each kind of different effect to specific numbers, specific mana costs, all that kind of stuff. And through rigorous testing, I've made it so that literally every effect that you could ever think of that's ever been in any card game, I can make it balanced, and I can make it so that every card interacts with every other card. There's no like, there's card types in terms of like how a card functions, but there aren't card types in terms of like restricting interactivity. So like as an example, like if you look at other card games, I'm going to talk specifically about other card games here. If you look at like Magic the Gathering, there's a lot of different card types. There's creatures, enchantments, artifacts, lands, all this stuff. There's so much stuff going on, and that's really cool for the depth and complexity of the game, of course. But in terms of balance, you run into some issues, because if the current deck that's super powerful is an artifact deck and they're not artifact creatures, they're just like artifacts or enchantments, then all of the interaction that your game has that deals with creatures doesn't deal with artifacts, unless it's like a modal choose one card. Basically what happens is you have these effects that are all, balanced independently, but they're not balanced together. Once you start getting synergy with a whole bunch of enchantments, or with especially card draw, becomes a really big issue. There's lots of triggered effects and all that stuff. What ends up happening is your game gets totally messed up, because a kind of deck that was once balanced and interactive suddenly becomes a mess. And my game, it makes it so that every card interacts with every other card. There's no kind of like limitation. Like, there is no card that you can play in my game that doesn't have health points that you can put onto the field. So if you put a card onto the field, it'll always have health points. And what that means is the way that you can remove any card is through damage. If you have a damage spell, it can always deal with anything the opponent might play. And that makes things really versatile. It makes really basic stuff like 5 mana, deal 5 damage. Suddenly that's actually a great card, even though that's a basic card. Like, that's going to be one of the most low rarity cards. It's going to be available to everyone pretty much. A basic simple effect like deal damage is going to always have use. It's going to always have merit. And with the math system, the way that that works, every single effect is uniquely balanced and costed, with stuff like extra costs, with stuff like the actual mana cost, and it's all factored in. And what that does is it makes it so that the game always has interactivity between all of its different systems. And the results are really cool there. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. The game's, hopefully gonna come out fully soon. I'm working on getting every single card formatted into this new thing. So I just wanted to kind of document, that I made this game, and that's what this channel is partially about, is this game, and I want to make something of it. And I think that with its unique balancing system that is created by me, that took me years to figure out and get to be absolutely perfect, and with my careful, thoughtful design, this game is going to be the best competitive card game, and a really great, simple, casual card game to sit down and play with some friends at the same time. But I think that really strategically, the depth of this game is something incredible to behold, even with such simple cards like, deal damage or guard or stuff like that. Every system interacts with every other system, and every single effect has a specific rate, and every single cost has a specific rate that it awards you when you pay that cost. Like, discarding a card always gives you an exact certain amount of an effect, but that effect could be any effect I wish because of the way that I've got the balancing system worked out. So I could balance any effect that you could ever imagine into this game with my robust mathematical system, and it's this big nerdy thing. But that's the thing that's really revolutionary about this card game that really pushes it over the edge in terms of competitive viability. It's not really about random chance or luck of the draw or overpowered cards anymore with this game. It's about skill. It's about player choice and what they choose to do during every game. So pretty much every game I've ever played with this game, even in testing, even when some of the things I was still working out, typically the player that wins was the player that didn't make any mistakes or made less mistakes than their opponent, or thought of something that the other player didn't, made some really amazing plays. One of my best friend and a really great playtester has come up with some of the craziest plays in this game that have won him games that I never would have seen coming. There was one game where I was sure I hadn't made any mistakes, but my opponent still managed to defeat me because they thought of things that were so creative and so out there with these card effects. So yeah, I just want to talk about that. I mean, I'm just yapping with my template in front of me and stuff. You can just see a whole bunch of art that I have made here. It's a bunch of stuff. There we go. It's in my thing, and you can see my process for making this stuff. Yeah, so here we go. I hope to release this game and get it out there, and this is something of a first episode in a kind of devlog. So, thank you guys for listening to me info dump at you about my card game. I hope that there's a lot of interest for this, and I hope to one day release the best competitive card game ever made. Thank you.